Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the press conference by Minister Kono Taro. First, Minister Kono has an opening statement to make. Minister, you have the floor.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today. Well, we have started vaccination for senior people on Monday, April 12th. As the governors requested us to start out slowly, in the first week, every prefecture has received just about 1,000 doses. Tokyo, Osaka, Kanagawa received 2,000 doses this week. And next week, every prefecture will get 5,000, except Tokyo, Kanagawa, Osaka will get 10,000. And the week of 26, they have 5,000. 3 prefectures will get 10,000. And plus, in the week of April 26, every municipalities in Japan will receive 1,000 doses. And in April, the intention is to start out slowly, test the recording system of vaccination and trying the system for delivery of the vaccination. Plus, the doctors and nurses to familiarize how to handle the Pfizer vaccine, to defreeze it and use it special needle to take 6 doses out of 1 vial. And after the Golden Week, we are receiving 10 million doses every week. So every cities and towns be able to receive as much as they need after the Golden Week. And by the end of June, we are supposed to receive enough doses for the senior people, which are 36 million in Japan, to receive 2 doses. So now, after the Golden Week, the speed of the inoculation will be up to each cities and towns. According to the inoculation law in Japan, it's the job for the cities. So the central government, we are going to help them to speed up this process. And we have now procured enough needles and syringes to get 6 doses out of 1 vial. We got the special needles and syringes to cover from Hokkaido to Okinawa. So we will be supplying those needles and syringes right after the Golden Week. So every vial, they should be able to get 6 doses out of it. And small towns and small island with just about 1,000 people, they are going to start inoculation for not just for the senior people, but inoculation for everybody. And they should be able to finish whole population probably in the first week in June or something. And as population get bigger, it will take some more time. We are talking to the mayors what kind of support they need. And I think the biggest request was to increase the number of the nurses who can shoot the vaccine. So we have changed the rules so that they can hire nurses temporarily at vaccination places. So that's the update. And we are still waiting for approval of Moderna and AstraZeneca vaccine. I haven't heard from Minister Tamura when we can expect to have additional kind of vaccine. I'm hoping sometime in May-June timeframe we can have either one, and so that's about it. If you have any question, please ask me, and I'll try to answer as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. So now Minister will entertain questions from the reporters. So please click raise hand button if you have questions. When you are appointed and unmuted by us, please state your name and affiliation before asking a question. So the first questioner will be, yes, so first questioner will be Mr. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes from the BBC.
Thank you, Minister Kono, for taking this press conference in English once again. We do really appreciate you making this effort for the international media. I wanted to ask you about the Olympics. You said yesterday, you're quoted yesterday as saying that the Olympics could happen with no spectators because of the COVID situation. So, I know in previous press conferences you said that the Olympics and the vaccination program are not something that are directly related. But I wonder whether you've changed your mind on that, given the spread of new variants and apparently going into a fourth wave. And also I wanted to ask you, apparently Prime Minister Suga is going to talk to the head of Pfizer while in the United States. Again, is that also prompted by concerns that there will not be enough people vaccinated before the Olympics, and trying to procure more vaccine for Japan?
Well, thank you. Vis-a-vis the Olympic Games, my position hasn't changed a bit. Olympic Games is not in my calendar at all. But I think IOC has decided to have the Olympic Games this year in Tokyo unless they changed their mind. So as the Japanese government, we will cooperate with IOC, and this Olympic will be probably different from any previous ones. I think we have to do what we can do. So how are we going to have the games? I think the organizing committee and IOC will be discussing, and hope to have it here, but it will be a very different way. I haven't got any request for inoculation for anybody on Olympic Games, so nothing has changed. Yes, Prime Minister is speaking to Mr. Pula of Pfizer. I think it'll be Saturday morning in the United States, is it? Something like that. Well, it's sort of a courtesy call, and we have been using Pfizer. Pfizer has been supplying vaccine, and they have agreed to speed up the process, and so the Prime Minister wanted to talk to the CEO and thank him about Pfizer's cooperation on this program.
So it's not directly asking for more, perhaps for some of the surplus from the United States. We understand the US might now actually have surplus supplies that it cannot use because it's ordered so much early on, and that there may be capacity to send some of that to Japan instead.
Well, I'm not at liberty to talk about the substance of the conversation, so you probably need to listen to the briefing after the telephone conversation.
Thank you. I have more questions, but I'll let others go first.
Thank you very much. So the next questioner will be Motoko Rich from New York Times.
Hello. Oops, sorry. Thank you so much for doing this briefing for us late on a Friday. We really appreciate it. I had a couple of questions. One is, I believe I heard you on Asahi TV yesterday morning talking a bit about some problems with the European Commission constraining supply and export controls. So I wondered if you could talk about that. And then given you've been very specific about when you're expecting to have the 65 and over supplies out by the end of June, but what about the rest of the population, given all of the balls that you have in the air with the approvals from Moderna and AstraZeneca? When can we expect that all of Japan will be vaccinated, or anyone in Japan who wants to be vaccinated can be vaccinated?
Thank you. Yes, the EU still has this transparency mechanism, and Italy has actually stopped shipment to Australia. So we have been in touch with EU headquarters and EU people related to vaccination and this transparency mechanism. And so far, response is good. They don't think vaccine coming to Japan would be any problem. But whenever we ask, then, give us some exemption or give us approval for whole month, they continue to tell us we need to get our approval for every and each shipment. So technically, something that happened to Australia could happen to Japan. We could get our vaccines stopped by EU. But starting from after the Golden Week, we are expecting 10 million doses a week, and every municipality is taking reservations for inoculation, and it will be very inconvenient for everybody to tell people that we are not getting vaccine as we expecting. So we have been talking to EU about this transparency mechanism, and we are hoping that vaccine will continue to come to Japan as Pfizer promised.
Sorry, Minister, but does that mean this is a theoretical concern, not actually something that's already happened? You're worried?
It's a theoretic concern, but we still haven't got an exemption or anything. So it could happen in theory, and I hope it doesn't come in reality. And schedule, the vaccine schedule is up to the municipality here in Japan. The government has no control over it. According to the inoculation law, it's a job for the cities and towns. So every cities and towns now have trying to lay out a vaccine schedule. Some small municipality may even end up completing the vaccination for the people in the first week of June, or maybe some very small town, maybe in May, possibly. And big cities with big population may take a bit longer. I have been in touch with some mayors, and they have come up with a vaccine schedule pending the supply, and they are going to check how many minutes it would take to do a vaccine for one person, or they're probably going to time to vaccine 100 people, how long it might take. So they would brush up their schedule and hopefully they will start telling us their schedule, or they may even publicly announce by which day they are moving to the next phase.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. So the next questioner will be Rocky Swift, followed by Lisa Dew from Bloomberg.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Minister Kono. I just wanted to ask again about something you mentioned in your opening remarks, the AstraZeneca vaccine. Do you have any further information on the possible approval of that vaccine in Japan and where the first doses are coming from? AstraZeneca executive said a week or so ago that the undiluted solution was coming from the United States. Is that something you can confirm? Thank you.
I'm not quite sure about the approval schedule for AstraZeneca as well as Moderna. They have already submitted for it, and it's up to the commission or council or whatever of health ministry. And they are, I believe, for both Moderna and AstraZeneca, they are still waiting for the final report from the clinical testing. I'm not sure when they're going to submit. Once they submit the final report, I hope it won't take long to approve those vaccines. AstraZeneca, they have two choices, I think. Bring in from US for filling in Japan, and I also my understanding is they also manufacturing in Japan, I think near Kobe or something, and do the filling as well in Japan. I'm not sure how they would start out. I believe it would depend on the approval schedule. If it's approved by certain time, they may bring in from the United States. If the approval is not so early, they may be ready to manufacture in Japan. So I think their production schedule may depend on approval schedule, and I'm not aware of the detail at this moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Lisa.
Yes. Sorry. Hi, thanks for taking my question and for the time today. I understand that the way you're distributing them is very equal across municipalities for the vaccinations. I'm just curious if you can kind of explain, why you guys decide to do the vaccinations, the vaccination route in this way with the distribution equally across municipalities in a way that doesn't take into account population size or the state of infections in the areas. And connected to that, with the recent flare-up of cases in places like Osaka and Tokyo, is there any way of incentivizing or helping to speed up the rollout in those areas that you're thinking of?
For the doses for doctors and nurses, we are distributing according to the number of the doctors and nurses in each prefecture. So the big prefecture are receiving more doses, and the smaller one getting less. And it's still going on. The vaccination for doctors and nurses and others are still going on in hospitals. And for the senior citizens, the doses for April is sort of a testing and checking up the system. So we are giving prefectures for just one box. Well, Tokyo, Osaka, Kanagawa get 2 boxes, but every prefecture is getting one box for system checkup and all those things. And the next week, 5, and then 5. And then week of April 26, every municipality will get 1 box, which probably is enough for 975, if I'm not mistaken. And then every municipality will be ready to handle the vaccine. And then after the Golden Week, even during the Golden Week, we are supplying as we are requested. And, every week we are receiving 10 million doses. So it doesn't really matter, if Osaka, Tokyo are in need, they simply need to ask the number they need, and we should be able to ship out enough the numbers. So as we have plenty of vaccine supply, we don't really need to focus on certain areas. I think it would depend on the speed at the cities, how fast they can inoculate. I think that would be the controlling point. It's not how we distribute vaccine. We can distribute as any way the cities want after the Golden Week.
Has the prefectures around Kansai and Tokyo, have they requested recently to speed up the process because of how the infections are trending in these areas?
Well, we are getting certain numbers, and I think that most of the city wanted to do as quickly as possible. So I believe they're trying their best. Certain cities are starting right after the Golden Week, and some cities are starting the week after. I think some city wanted to make sure they have enough stock so they can take the reservation. Some mayors are more bold, and they expect enough vaccine will come, and they already start taking reservations. So it's up to the mayor. But after the Golden Week, most of the municipalities are willing to do as much as possible. So we changed the rule so they can hire nurses on a temporary basis, which have not been allowed to do. But we changed the rules, so I think they are trying to get enough doctors and nurses.
Thank you. I have more questions, but I'll let other people go first. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So next speaker will be Noah.
Hi, Mr.
From an economist.
Hi, Mr. Kono. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You actually just began to touch on what I was hoping to ask you about, which is the personnel shortages. You mentioned making it easier to hire nurses on a part-time basis or on a temporary basis. Are there other measures under discussion to increase the number of staff available to help with the vaccine rollout, and how severe is the manpower shortage? To what extent is that a problem you worry about as the pace of the rollout accelerates?
Well, we have been getting in touch with 41 cities and towns, asking how they are doing getting doctors and nurses. I mean, nobody say they got enough. I mean, if they got additional doctors or nurses, they can even speed up more. So every mayor's asking more, and even if we are able to fill the gap, then they would probably ask more. So there's no limit. But I think majority of the mayors are happy about the current situation, and they wanted to test their reservation system They wanted to test how quickly they can inoculate at town center or wherever they are doing. They are still asking, majority of the doctors in this country are private, and no one has authority to tell them to help us, inoculate. So mayors continue to ask private doctors to participate in this program, and we are watching the number slowly increasing even now. So we are not quite sure about it, but I think the majority of the mayor ready to start at the full swing. We will continue to ask cities and towns, and especially if some cities are going slower than the other cities, we will definitely ask what do they need to speed up, and if we could help them, we would. So we'll see how it goes out after the Golden Week.
In the UK, for example, the government there has recruited volunteers, some without medical experience, to help with administering the vaccine. Is that something that Japan might consider?
I don't think the Japanese would be willing to get a shot from volunteer. There has been a talk of asking, say, dentists to help, but I don't think any mayors are now asking for that. We changed the rules so the dentist could participate in PCR testing, and they help us do it. If we are really pressed for additional manpower, maybe if there's any cities or towns who are desperate to get more personnel for vaccine, but right now, I don't think so. We'll see how it turns out.
Right, thank you very much. So I see Rocky being on deck, but should I take questions from some other reporters who haven't asked questions? If not, then Rocky, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. We've heard anecdotal reports of foreigners traveling back overseas to get vaccines in their home countries or other countries. What do you think about that, Minister, and also the potential for Japan recognizing so-called vaccine passports to facilitate travel and also to maybe minimize the need for quarantining? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you would like to go back to your home country for inoculation, that's fine with us. Some country has a higher rate of COVID-19, so you could consider which is safer for your health. As for the vaccine, so-called vaccine passport, if internationally there's agreement to issue a vaccine passport, I think Japan will participate in those programs. But we have to make sure that this vaccine passport will consider those who are not able to get a vaccine for allergy and other issues. So it should contain not just about the vaccine record. It should contain PCR testing, and if it's negative, people should be allowed to travel as easily as those who have received the vaccine. We have asked to participate certain programs, World Economic Forum, some European countries, some Asian country wanted to do a digital passport with us. So we are now looking at the situation, and I think Chief Cabinet Secretary will be leading this program. We have installed a vaccine record system. Each city has a digital record of who has received the vaccine, which type, which day, and they should be able to issue a certificate. So we are ready to participate in the rulemaking.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So we have 3 more questioners and roughly 10 minutes of time. So I would like to ask you to make your question succinct. So we'll start with Mari-san from AB.
Thank you, Mr. Kono, Minister Kono, for this occasion today. I have one Olympic-related question. I'm hearing some discussion about a possibility of prioritizing athletes to get vaccinated before the games because of concerns that the Japanese athletes who are not inoculated may pose risks for their foreign counterparts. And I'm just wondering if for you that would be a possibility, if there is a request coming from JOC or the government. Have you had such a request, or if so, would that be a possible option? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as a runner of vaccine or mule, I don't participate in the policy decisions. If the organizing committee headed by Hashimoto-san thinks it is necessary, I think she will consult with the health minister. And the health minister decides to go ahead, then he will give me direction and I will deliver vaccine for the training center or whatever they will get. So far, there's no consultation or no action about this Japanese athlete getting vaccine.
Do you think it would be a good idea to do it? I mean, prioritizing.
Well, that is a policy decision, and it's up to health minister.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you very much. So the next speaker is once again Lisa from Bloomberg.
I just wanted to ask a little bit about the Moderna vaccine. There's been reports that we're going to be expecting a shipment in Japan soon. Do you know how many doses the first shipment will contain? And also, in the case that the Moderna vaccine is approved, I think the health minister has said it could come as early as May. Is the rollout that's going to be deployed for the Moderna vaccine going to be the same as Pfizer, or is it going to be a different process?
Thank you. I'm not quite sure about the first shipment. I haven't heard about it. Well, if we approve or when we approve Moderna, how are we going to roll out? I'm trying to come up with a Moderna strategy right now. They need a different deep freezer than Pfizer. And they have different dates in between the first shot and second shot. So we don't want to confuse the municipalities. We don't want to confuse those who are receiving the vaccines. So I'm thinking about Moderna strategy, how we can maximize the efficiency of vaccination with this second type of vaccine.
Is it possible that if more vaccines are approved and the process appears to be different for each, that the more vaccines that are approved could actually slow down the process because it could confuse people and the municipalities?
Well, I wouldn't want to slow down anything. So if we get how are we going to do that? I'm thinking about the strategy right now. We'll let you know soon.
I'm sorry. Your audio cut out at the end. I'm not sure if you can repeat the last sentence again.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I just heard you say I don't want to slow anything down.
Right. Okay. I don't want to slow down the process because we got a second vaccine, which is supposed to be a good thing. So I'm trying to come up with strategy using new vaccine for the second line. How we can provide the second line without confusing municipalities and those who are receiving vaccine.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the last questioner will be Motoko Rich from New York Times.
Thank you so much for letting me ask a follow-up question. One is, why is it taking so long to just get through healthcare workers? My understanding is that only a quarter of healthcare workers have been vaccinated. And in terms of supplies, is it just that the Americans, say, and the British were much more aggressive in negotiating contracts with the companies so that they're getting their supplies much more quickly than Japan?
Okay, we are getting Pfizer vaccine, 10 million a week from May, after Golden Week. And we have been negotiating with Pfizer to give us as many as possible until then. And that's what we got right now. So we are prioritized for doctors and nurses. And we divided the current doses to the prefectures according to the number of the doctors and nurses. And the prefectural government is responsible for giving it out to the hospitals. They are trying to prioritize doctors and nurses who are involved in front line against the COVID-19 and doctors and nurses who are going to participate in vaccination for the seniors. As it is quite well known, you could get high temperature or tiredness, or your arms could hurt. I think every hospital trying to sort of they are not trying to do the shot for everyone at once. If you give a shot for every nurses on the same day, maybe 20% of them may not be able to come to work the next day. So they are taking, they are kind of spreading the vaccination for several days. And we are still providing vaccine for doctors and nurses. I think we are sending out nearly 1 million doses this week, and we will continue to do that. So the last doses for the doctors and nurses will be shipped out May 10th, and that's supposed to cover 4.7 million of them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, I think that concludes today's press conference by Minister Kono. Apologies on our part for some lapse of audio and visual. But thank you very much for your patience and for your cooperation. And thank you, sir, Minister Kono.
Thank you very much.